Good evening and welcome to Blakely Hall. My name is Mary Lou Polly and I'm the mayor of Issaquah. I'm pretty excited about a community visioning workshop or meeting, whatever we're having, because we haven't done this before. I wanted to make sure you knew that we had a sign-in sheet in front and that you sign in. This is a process that will evolve, and if there are additional parts to it, we want to make sure that you hear about other things that are happening. First off, I wanted to say I'm a little bit off tonight. I had an unexpected family emergency over the last 2 weeks, and I've been away. I am such a crazy community planning person that I figured coming here tonight would be good distraction for me. If I don't stay for the whole night, it's because I'm just kind of done, and not that I have anywhere else to go, but I just wanted to say that up front. Also, I wanted to make sure that everybody has a good time tonight, and we have a great crew here, and I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy City Administrator, Andrea Snyder.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. Thank you all of you for coming. This is an exciting night, as the Mayor was saying. We have an opportunity to check on the Issaquah Highlands vision and make sure that we are headed in the direction that you would like your neighborhood to head. So tonight I'd like to introduce some of the city staff who are here. We have Keith Nevin, who's the Development Services Director, and Lucy Sloman, who is a planning manager with us. Between the two of them, they know the Issaquah Highlands, I think, probably the best among all of the city staff. They've certainly been working in your neighborhood and helping plan this neighborhood from pretty much the beginning. We also have Leeson. Leeson, where are you? There you are in the back. Leeson is our neighborhood engagement coordinator, so many of you may already know Leeson. And also we have 3 members from the Issaquah cable TV staff. We have Tim, can you say hi? Thank you. And Wes and Gabe. And we are recording the event tonight, so those who may not be able to have made it can watch and see how this meeting went and what some of the comments were and the discussion was. It'll be posted next week on the city's YouTube channel, and we'll be playing on our ICTV, our cable station. So without any further delay, I'd like to introduce Keith Nevin, the Development Services Director.
Thank you for coming, Keith Nevin, Development Services Director. As Andrea said, between Lucy and myself, I think combined, we've worked on Issaquah Highlands for 45 years. That seems like a really long time, and I think when Lucy and I talk about it that way, it is a long time. So, Issaquah Highlands started in 1996, and really what happened is this property was owned by, I'll do a little history lesson, a really short one for you guys. This was owned by Ken Behring, and Ken Behring, for those of you who've been around Seattle long enough, was the owner of the Seattle Seahawks. And Ken Behring had a vision that he was going to create a bunch of 5-acre lots for football players to live in. And everything went kind of south for Ken. And ultimately, he sold the Seahawks and he sold the property to Port Blakely. And Port Blakely was not interested in building 5-acre suburban lots. What they really wanted to do was a master plan community that would combine work, live, and play in an area that really hadn't been done in the Seattle metropolitan area at that time. And so they came to the city. They worked with both the city and King County, because at the time it was rural King County. They worked with both the city and the county to kind of flesh out this idea of how could we do this? How could we get this land to become something that's more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, would have higher densities, but would promote a lot of things that make neighborhoods really great. And that was the vision that was sold to the city back in the 90s, and we thought that was a great idea. And so the property was annexed and was basically, for the first 20 years, controlled by the master developer through a development agreement, which is like a contract. And as kind of things got built and neighborhoods got, people moved into houses and retail got built and Swedish got built and Central Park got built and a lot of things got built. We kind of came to the end of that term, and it was time to kind of look forward. And that's really what we're trying to do this evening, is to say, okay, we understand, looking in the rearview mirror, what happened for 20 years. And the question is, what's going to happen for the next 20 years? And, there's a lot of things I think about this community that hopefully you like. There might be some things that maybe didn't quite turn out the way that they could have. And maybe for certain reasons, like the market, we had a recession in the middle of build out of the Highlands. It was hard to get people interested in Issaquah at the time. When this project started, the population of Issaquah was 8,000. So that can tell you how much things have changed over 23 years. So, sorry, I'm going to try and keep my voice at one level too. So besides the core expectations for live, work, and play, sensitivity to the environment, a strong sense of community, and sustainability have been very key tenets to this community. When the city built our fire station on Park Drive, it was the first LEED silver fire station. It was a big push for us. When we talked to Port Blakely about affordable housing and worked a deal to get the YWCA Family Village in, we carved off a small piece of it to do a zero energy sustainable housing project as a demonstration. There were just innovation upon innovations that have happened over the 20 years because we were all working under the same vision. So why are we here this evening? So as I mentioned, we ended the development agreement. And during that process last year, the city council heard from some folks that maybe some things should be different. That's a big undertaking, I think. It's a very important conversation to have with the community. And so what we wanted to do was to actually take an opportunity to really think about that and to have a deliberate conversation about what this community is and where it's going. And so that I'm going to take a moment. We have a couple short video clips to show you guys this evening to kind of get you thinking about the vision and what the Highlands is. We're going to show the first video clip right now, I think.
The ability to find common ground and forge true partnerships was made possible because Port Blakely had and was able to share and deliver a true vision for Issaquah Highlands, a vision that looked at how to live better, taking care of resident needs, plus being responsible to the environment and future generations.
Well, I think Issaquah Highlands is the epitome of responsible development because it took into account community values like preserving open space, reducing sprawl, increasing densities, and it converted those aspirations into the reality that we see here today.
The vision that evolved is a sustainable urban village where people can live, work, and play today and well into the future.
And urban village really connoted a couple things. One is the village, which is people interacting, and you're not just in your car driving from here to there, you're seeing people, you're walking. And the second is urban, which has to do with a mix of uses.
And the idea was to trade backyards that people typically have in suburban communities for an open space of this kind. So instead of having a large backyard, you have just a huge common park instead. Kids got to know each other, parents come with kids, parents get to know each other, they bring their dogs, they get to know each other, and they felt safer in this neighborhood because of that.
Over the years, literally dozens and dozens of people worked to create a new kind of community. Today, Issaquah Highlands is recognized as one of the most innovative master plan communities in the country and the first largest built green community in the Northwest.
And I think we've come to a point where people really like the idea of living in or near a community which is walkable, which is environmentally responsible, and is frankly just a pleasure to live in because there is a real sense of community here among the people who've chosen to move here or to locate their businesses here.
Okay, so we wanted to, so that was, you guys have that on your webpage. We thought it was great. We thought it was a nice summary of kind of the vision of this community. And so we wanted to play that just as another kind of tool to help us start thinking about what is this place and what's it all about. And so with that, I think I'm going to maybe suggest we skip the second clip and go to, when you talk about vision, it can be a daunting conversation, because it can be all encompassing, right? And so what we thought is this evening, so here's the directions for this evening. So what we thought we would do would be to say, okay, there's really three main tenets of Issaquah Highlands: live, work, play. And what we thought we would do would be to ask you guys to use the dots we gave you this evening to go ahead and put on our charts where you think we landed after 23 years. So in terms of living, if you think this is a great place to live, please put a 5. If you think there's some issues, maybe it's a 4 or a 3. And if you really don't like living here or think this is a great place to live, put a 1. Well, what we'd like to do after you guys put your dots on the charts is to have a conversation about how this landed. I mean, I don't know how this is going to land. I don't know if anybody in the room does. So I'm interested to see. But also, so we're going to talk about each of these afterwards. Live, work, play, and then an overall score for Issaquah Highlands. And we're going to use that information really to think about what needs to change, what's good, what should stay the same, and what needs to change if there is anything. And we have also provided some Post-it notes. So if you feel like you want to write some written comments in, feel free to attach them below. Really, this is about hearing from you guys on kind of this topic. And then what we need to do from there is to figure out what we heard and report that back to the City Council. And then talk about where we go from here. If you all say that this is a wonderful place and there's no problems, I'm going to tell the City Council, check the box, it's done. And let's just keep doing that for another 20 years. But my guess is there'll be some things that come up this evening that are going to be worth talking about, and it'll be good to hear that. So with that, I'm going to stop talking, and I hope you all go ahead and feel free to put your dots up. And the green sheets, you guys, one of the things that we wanted to find out as well is, why'd you come tonight? If there's something that you would like for us to know, that you came hoping to get out of this meeting, please feel free to write that down. And we have a drop box by the door. And if you could drop them in on your way out this evening, that'd be great. And we're going to try and get you out of here at 9. But feel free, if you want to leave early, that's fine too.
So if you don't have dots, I'm happy to give them to you. You can see there are 4 colors. They're kind of color-coded, 1 dot per sheet. Try no cheating by putting 4 dots on 1 sheet. Again, pens, if you need them to fill out your green sheets or to write comments on the stickies and put them below. Feel free to come get dots if you didn't get them.
So Keith, the visioning portion is the discussion afterwards when we talk about the results.
Yes,
correct?
absolutely.
Otherwise, it's a rearview mirror. So.
Yes. Yes.
So some of us were fairly built out. How much is left, and does this apply to what's left?
So my perspective is there's really I don't think there's a preconceived idea of how to answer that, Rob. What I would tell you is, and Lucy and I have a little bit of an understanding that some of you in this room I think have and some don't. I can tell you the first plan for Grand Ridge Plaza was, it looked like a mirror image of U Village. And Opus was the developer. And it was great. I mean, it was an absolute home run. And then the recession happened. I know that the first grocery store was Metropolitan Market, and the recession happened. So I know some things that if you ask me, is there room for something to be different? Absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that if you guys say that, that work isn't quite what you wanted because Grand Ridge Plaza doesn't look like you expected it to, then let's talk about that. What would make it better? Is it additional buildings? Is it a mix of different uses? I think all of that is open for conversation. So yes, there is property left to build on, and those property owners are here tonight. We can talk about that, but I don't think it's limited to that. I think this is, if you guys think, we've got vacant property, right? How long has Pad 4 in Central Park sat there? Oh wait, 20 years. Not quite that long, 15, and I know that it's something that I've heard from you guys before that, let's finish Central Park. And there is a plan for that, by the way. The undeveloped stuff, the developed stuff, let's talk about all of it, I think.
And I think the reason that there are not words up here other than what each sheet is the questions that you're answering are for each of you to decide when you put your dot on. Are you looking backward? Are you looking forward? Are you talking about today? And that's why we want to talk about it. We want to see where you would put the dots, then we can unpack what that means for each of you. So I don't think you have to, it's for you to decide how you want to use it.
Can you tell me how the rest of the evening is going? Because you said you'd get us out of here by 9. Do we do this till 9?
Well, so it's up to you guys, right? I think my hope is that when you guys put your dots up, there's certain reasons why you put it where you do. And when we look at the groupings, it may be that, let's assume play, everybody sticks it on 5 because y'all love the trails, you love the parks, you love the mini parks, everything. I might just say, why did everybody put it on 5? And then if somebody wants to share, that's awesome. If you all are introverts and don't want to share, then fine, this might be a quick conversation and then we have time for cookies later. By the way, there's cookies if you guys want cookies. So I think, so here's the thing. I would love for us to get through this in what's like an hour and a half now. But if we start talking about live and that conversation wants to go for an hour and a half, I don't want it to end. I don't want to say, hey, we're out of time, we got to move on. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do that, and we will then have the other conversations in other meetings. If it goes long on the first one, and we want to spend a long time there, that's fine. I don't have parameters there. If each of these are 5-minute conversations and we have time at the end, then we'll just have general conversation. Okay?
Sit down when you're done with your dots and we can talk.
Please, that'd be great.
That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
The risk of sort of derailing the process here. I'm wondering whether those are the right categories and whether all of us are, I would say that most of us are here not because everything is perfect, but because we have concerns. And the concerns may not fall under those very neat 3 categories. I would say from what I've heard and seen, written and spoken, traffic is a huge concern. Traffic falls under all of those categories. And I think rather than spend a lot of our time putting up dots and talking about why we love to live here, we should be talking about issues that most of us share concerns.
So I appreciate your comment, and what we're going to do is we're going to do dots because we're talking about the vision. The vision was really focused around live, work, play. I think if we want to have a deeper conversation about traffic, we can do that. This may not be the right forum for that, but I have cards and Lucy has cards, and we can set that up if we want to have a separate meeting to talk about just traffic.
And I just put another sheet up there. If you have things that you want us to think about and be aware of that don't fall in these categories, take your stickies, write them up on there. We want to know about all the stuff. We just may be focused on certain pieces tonight, and then we can add on in the future, or tonight if we have time for it.
I want to continue that question then, because I think, like for the vision, especially for the work part, I think for most of us it means like we're working elsewhere, not in the community. So for the work part of the vision, what does it mean and what are we exactly, like I would think it's to commute to work that is important for us here, so traffic is going to come up there.
So what if there were more jobs in Issaquah Highlands that were something that you might want to work at? What if your employer, I don't know where you work, had an office here, and your commute you could manage in 10 minutes coming down the hill? So I think if for you, that sounds great, and that's not what's happening here, maybe for you, work ends up being a 1 because of the traffic, because of the commute, and because of the fact that there aren't employment opportunities that suit what your skill set is. Just a suggestion.
Okay, who's going to be bold and put the first dot on?
Not me. All right, does everybody have at least first round of dots and sticky notes up? Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and keep rolling. Can I stand over here? Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the stickies for you guys, and then we'll see what kind of conversation we have. So the Post-it notes down at the bottom, the first one says petty theft. Okay, so I'm assuming that at least somebody felt like petty theft is an issue in the Highlands. The second one is elementary school can't serve all of the Issaquah Highlands elementary students. Yes, we know that that is an issue. And then the third one is the mix of housing types provide for a mix of neighbors, which is a smiley face. Awesome. Okay, so folks, everybody seems to, well, it looks like I have a 3.5. And then the rest are 4s and 5s. Would anybody like to talk about the dot that they put under live? This is the 5-minute meeting.
Here, 911.
Oh.
We have crowd mic.
Madam, hello. My husband and I just moved back here.
Congratulations.
So we put a 5. Yeah, thank you. And so then that takes the comparison of having lived here and then going away and then looking at the rest of the market around here and deciding this was the best place to live. So I'm really confident with my 5. But I think that it is the variety of people who live here and how they embrace living here that makes it special, and the way that it was designed that we could all know each other's our neighbors is a positive design.
So I'll give you a little history moment here. Sorry, I'm going to try and not do this all night. So when the master developer wanted to achieve just that, that was to get neighborhoods where people could meet each other and not just drive into their garage, put the garage door down and never see each other. So the first group of builders that they had put under contract to build the first part of Issaquah Highlands, the builders said, we're not going to build that because nobody will buy it. And so they flew those builders back to the Kentlands to show them what was being built on the East Coast so that they could understand that, yes, people would buy these if you built them. And so that's the level of commitment to get just that, that I think was core to how this neighborhood got built.
Front porches.
For the porches, indeed.
I have the microphone, thank you. Similar to what Nina was saying, Carl and I have lived in 3 different homes here for 3 different parts of our lives or times of our lives. We started as a young family. We moved to a bigger home on a, different street when our kids were, middle school, high school. And now we've moved to a condo townhouse where we can walk to everything downtown Issaquah Highlands. And so there's something for everyone in every stage of their life, So we just keep finding other places we want to live within the Highlands.
Nice.
A couple things. First of all, on the elementary school, I totally understand that. My kids are way out of that. But for those of you that don't know, in the early years, we actually fought to get a single elementary school up here because we were told, well, there's not going to be enough demand for it. And the early residents fought really hard, including Lacey was very instrumental in that. A lot of surveys, and I think we got the schools earlier than they were expecting to do it. It hasn't been solved completely, but I just want to know that, with people staying involved, those kinds of things can get better. As far as living here, the diversity of housing types is awesome. We moved here in '98, and we now have, my daughter just bought a condo here a month ago, so we now have 6 family homes in the Highlands, and we are all in different stages of our lives, and no place is perfect to live. I travel a lot, visit a lot of people, but it's about as good as you can get when you talk about the totality of things, and can always get better. Petty theft sucks, right? But sometimes traffic, sometimes parking, sometimes weather, it doesn't really matter, but it's a lot of good stuff here.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious when you were telling that story, like which part was of the Highlands was that the first property that built that matched that vision?
So 15th and J.
Okay, so okay.
Around the what that park's called.
That's right. They're sitting right here.
Does anybody else want to add?
Yeah, Eric Evans, Shelter Holdings. We own a good portion of the land that we're talking about. Gary Young, who probably a lot of you have seen, couldn't be here tonight, so I'm filling in for him. But most of you know we did a fairly extensive outreach with the community. I just want to share what a few people told us. Not trying to advocate. I think it's a lovely place up here. We've invested because we think it's a lovely place. But we did hear from a few, and I'm the 3, I guess, on the corner, from a couple residents who have lived here like Jeff for a long time and have wanted to have a place they could transition into, someplace close, someplace as seniors that they could be close to the hospital. I thought that was really good input. Wasn't my idea, but I don't see the people who were at the focus groups we held and the open houses, but that was one of the feedback that we heard as you think about forward.
Anybody else? Oh, David?
Good evening. I'm David Kapler. I was on the city council when we came up with this crazy idea, which was not an easy sell. It's interesting. We started with the Newcastle community plan, which covered between the area between Renton and Bellevue, where Newcastle is now a city, all the way to Squaw Mountain. And we endorsed the concept, the environmental community endorsed the concept of urban villages for that planning area. And that kind of opened the door. The city then did their plan for east side of Cougar Mountain, and they came up with agreeing with the urban village concept for that. And then when the Issaquah Highlands thing came along, the alternative of 5-acre lots and losing a lot of trails and a lot of public open space, which wasn't public open space at that time, but potentially public. We had a strong council that supported this and a community. I would lead Hikes for Issaquah Alps Trails Club up here to show them the density, and people were appalled, frankly, that we're used to big backyards and things like that. But my daughter, I got her to buy up in here. She's since moved to Seattle, but she had a condo early on, and I think it's been great. I have 2 issues, I guess, that still remain. What's going to happen with the Bellevue College property? And Issaquah schools always said it was too steep, and now they want to build a 5-story school on the side of Tallis. So that's steep. The other is I've been known not to be the friendliest towards the mountain bike issue, and it's great that there's places now where mountain bikes can go and they're responsible, and it's a lot better than before. But if you live up in the Highlands and you just want to walk with your grandkids or your dog, or just want to be slow and not get run over by a bike, you're going to be on urban sidewalks or that. You cannot walk in the woods up here, and except on the trails that are mostly bikes. And we got a beautiful, level, forested area, south of the college site there, great woods that would be a wonderful walking park for the whole community to take advantage of. And it is identified as parkland and has that potential, but we need some indigenous people up here to pioneer that and be pushing it. I mean, I've been a broken record for 15 years about it, but nothing's happening. And I would hope we could get that. But the college property is pretty interesting, and it's not a cinch because of the surrounding communities, narrow streets, very much a residential community. But it's something the community needs to be thinking about. Thank you.
I think was there another hand?
So we've lived in the Highlands for 10 years, and we just keep moving around because we love it so much. And we just moved on to 16th Court a year ago, so I guess I was supposed to sit in that row. I didn't know that. But my one concern about the Highlands is that there aren't a lot of roads out of the Highlands, and I'm concerned about emergencies. If there was an emergency, how the Highlands would be evacuated. And so I guess that's my question here for her tonight.
Did you want an answer? So there actually is a second access out. It's by the Montessori school, and it's gated off. And if there was ever a problem, on Park Drive, that it could serve as a second access point out. But let's assume like something crazy happened, like the BPA power line fell down. There would be no way out for the residents east of the power easement until they got it cleared. There isn't. And the problem is the topography, because really to try and get off the hill to, I'm directionally challenged. I think that's south. No, that's west. Down to I-90. I mean, there's just, thank you. I need my navigator, my Boy Scout over there. It would be a big challenge. And most of that property is permanent open space owned by WashDOT. And so it's, it luckily has not been a problem yet. Hopefully it won't be a problem that we have to deal with. So.
Have you looked into anywhere like out from the back of the community, like the Issaquah, like the Pine Lake Road? Is there a way to connect, road built that way?
So, everything's money, right? I mean, you could do it eventually if you had enough money to do it. But at this point, nobody's looking at that. So, did anybody else have any comments they wanted to share on the live part of this community? Seeing none, I'm going to try and move over to work. I'm going to read those, and I don't know that I can if you move them way down there. Sorry, Lucy. Okay, so first one says, when Microsoft didn't build in Issaquah Highlands, that land should have been used by another high-tech company, not more housing. The second one says, what happened to the shelter holdings plan? They were providing uses for many types of people, work, and play. The next one says, work is a 2. Oh, okay, a 2, I get it. Because I work from home, so 5, but I wish more jobs were in Issaquah Highlands. We don't need another storage facility in the Highlands. Need more jobs that match the cost of living. Sorry, guys. Shelter holdings land should be developed like a European-style village, pedestrian-focused housing on top, retail on the bottom. Continue to encourage a mix of uses and incomes. Keep design guidelines, repeal FAR requirements, match what is here. And then retail development brings additional jobs to the community, as does development that serves the needs of existing employees such as Swedish. Okay, much different grouping on work than on live. So we've got dots in all 5 buckets. So does anybody want to talk about a particular dot or?
Hi, Keith.
Hi, Carl.
I was the puzzling 2 and 5 up there. So I work from home. I can walk to Starbucks. I love it. I'm still very sad that there is not some more work. You know, when folks are talking about what's my work environment, I have to commute. If there were people, if it had been Microsoft or something else, and I hope any of our future visioning is find that balance that we had been promised, sold, that there is more live, work, play, because right now it's so much live and play, there's hardly any work. That's my view of things.
Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Pete. I don't have to worry about work because I am retired. But 2 questions I had. One on the voice we as the residents have on any new merchants that come into the area. How will we be able to, I won't say screen out, but things such as, I'll just say it, marijuana shops, yet we like the desirables, such as something for the teenagers to...
Like marijuana shops?
No. I didn't put it in the same... Thank you very much. But, you know, there was supposed to be some sort of a wave pool put up behind, you know, some of the other stores there. And we don't know what happened to that. Obviously, it disappeared. But I know when we first moved here about 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, there was a lot of talk about what do the teenagers do up here?
Yeah.
Is there still that concern? And how do we feed that in, if you will, to the new merchants that might be coming in the area if that's the way it's going?
So Pete, I've been trying to get, I think Jeff and I have been trying to get a bowling alley for like 15 years or more. So, you know, this is an issue that I think is citywide in terms of, you know, finding, you know, we have great access to the outdoors. And that's great. You know, the trails and biking and hiking and, you know, skiing and, you know, using the lake, all of that is awesome. But when it's pouring down rain and kind of nasty outside, you know, is there any indoor entertainment opportunities in Issaquah as a whole, or Issaquah Highlands, or, you know, the whole city? You know, you got the Village Theater, you've got theaters, you know, so you can go watch a movie, you can go watch cinema. You know, we're needing more of that. Now, I think you started with what ability does the community have to maybe shape that? That's a great question. So typically the way the city's rules and regulations work, we can allow for and exclude certain land uses, right, overall. You mentioned marijuana. There's a lot of restrictions related to marijuana, related to proximity to schools, proximity to parks. You guys have such a spread of parks that it pretty much has ruled out any pot shops up here. We have one down on the valley floor, and there's another one looking to locate somewhere in central Issaquah. And then that's really, we have a 2 allotment right now from the state. So that's where that's at. But yeah, knock yourself out.
So Keith is right that the city sets a range of uses that are allowed in certain areas. But additionally, the Issaquah Highlands can make other determinations as a, you know, a master plan community, and the community has decided they don't want marijuana shops. And so that's a sort of 2-level thing. Sarah Hoy, who's sitting not too far behind you, is nodding because I know when we were talking about replacement regs, she said, I don't want you to allow that. And that was not something that we didn't start with that because we knew that the CCNRs, the rules and regs that the master plan community had in place would control that.
So you have think about it this way, you have a parallel layer of governance beyond what the city has. So for example, there's a great example. In the very beginning stages of Issaquah Highlands, there was certain concern raised about pit bulls. And so pit bulls were not allowed in Issaquah Highlands. Pit bulls are allowed in the city, but that was just the way that got started. And so there is the ability for this community to have tighter regulations in the city, but our role is we kind of allow certain blocks of different types of uses, and that's done through zoning. And there is zoning on the property, and if part of the conversation that unfolds here is you guys want a different set of land uses, we can have that conversation.
Breed bans have been disallowed now in the state as of a week or two ago.
Wow, look at that.
I don't think it's gone through the community yet.
Can you repeat that? He said, thank you. So Jeff said that breed bans have been disallowed in the state. So that will be something that will no longer be possible, I guess. Thank you, Jeff. Learned something new. Okay. Anybody else want to talk about work? Eric.
I just want to say for the record, the comment about the mixed-use shelter holdings proposal was not mine. So whoever put it up, I appreciate the perspective. I did want to touch on, we control a good share of the retail. We have no interest in owning or operating or leasing a marijuana pot store, even if it was allowed. We're a family-owned business. It's not who we are. We very much support the work and the retail that we heard. We heard a lot from the community about the types of retail people wanted. We heard a lot about a bowling alley. We heard a lot about a restaurant that had 2 levels that you could look out and watch the sunset, about specialty grocery stores, about really high quality retail that would have plazas that you could spill out like a European village. We're very much want to pursue those types of applications and are trying to. So I just want to reinforce the ideas here and very appreciative of the input.
Anybody else? Gentleman in the back. Thank you.
I guess my only concern with the work aspect of it is, or with the rest of what we build up here, is that it's servicing those that are here. Because I think, it's going to come out, I'm sure there's going to be traffic in the streets and all stuff, but crowded as they are, that if we build certain things that will bring more vehicles to the area. So if we build office condos that can be occupied by any company, I know there's a community right in Phoenix where they gave some companies the ability to, or companies gave people stipends to be able to work in the offices that were built in their community. It was a master plan community sort of like this. So things like that service those here, I'd be more interested in. Than I think we need to be careful about what we bring in due to how many, the density that's already up here and the traffic flow that goes through here. The work part out of the 3, I think the fiber optic network is great. People are able to work from home. We have a parking lot to take people to certain places. So in a way, I think it's more efficient to get to work up here. But I'm concerned about when we talk about work, if we bring any sort of business condos and things like that in, that it just brings more density to the area that I don't think we're building ourselves to sustain that.
Thank you. So what master plan community do you live in, Phoenix?
No, I was born and raised down there, so a few, but I was talking about one of the communities.
I worked on a lot of the master plan communities in Phoenix. I was there for 8 years. So the idea with employment, if you think about it in a very broad sense, right? You have houses and you have employment. In the morning, usually people are traveling to employment centers, right? So for Issaquah Highlands, what's happening is people are traveling to Seattle, to Bellevue, to Redmond, basically going westbound, which is why I-90 looks like it does every morning. If you have an office in Issaquah Highlands, you will capture some people. You won't capture everybody. It just doesn't work that way. But you will capture some people that are coming this direction, right? So they live in Bellevue, they live in Seattle, they live in Redmond. They come in the opposite way. So they're using the opposite side of the street while people are using the other side. So in theory, it's going opposite directions, and it doesn't go, it's not everybody going the same direction at the same time.
In theory, but it's always not the same working hours, and it's not the same, they don't stay over and then using the theaters, the restaurants.
Well, your retailers will want that, actually. Yeah.
The people that work the retail jobs, though, can't afford to live here. So they're going to commute in to take care of the places that we build.
Right.
So we need to have more affordable housing.
So that goes, so that's one side of the equation, right? I mean, so the council has spent a lot of time talking about, living wage jobs. We've also spent a lot of time talking about more affordable housing. So it's trying to, it's at the end of the day, it's about really, you want diversity. You want diversity of housing prices. You want a diversity of incomes so that you can get the best match that you possibly can. People will still commute. The whole work jobs balance thing, it's a misnomer because you never get 100% of your community working in your community. Best case situations for central cities is like 30%. So to your point, Sarah, I think it goes both. You need both pieces. You need the affordable housing, but you also need some higher paying jobs for people who live not only in Issaquah Highlands, but in Sammamish and in the rest of Issaquah and even farther east.
Yeah, I'm Jim Young. I'm the president of the IUCA, and I just wanted to clarify. In 2022, all of the Highlands is going to be built out, with the exception of what we were talking about, because it's debatable whether or not the college is part of the Highlands or not. I hear different things depending on which board meeting I'm at. And then it's the aforementioned hotel / swimming pool, whatever it's always been. That's the only thing that's in the Highlands, other than the shelter. So we just need to be careful that unless we start tearing something down or asking the city to build in the parks, it is what it is as we see it today.
So, and just, I agree with you. I appreciate that fine point, Jim. But here we are right now. So the city right now, there are very few pieces of property sprinkled around the city that are still forested, undeveloped property. Everything from here on out for the next 50 years is tear downs and rebuilds, right? So at some point, the product, I hate to use the word product, the product up here will be old enough that the land will be of a high enough value that somebody's gonna say, you know what, a single story retail center with surface parking is not the best. I can get more money by redeveloping into a higher density.
No, I think that's a very, very valid point. It's sort of the elephant in the room, and I really appreciate bringing it up. Sarah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Who hasn't gone?
Okay. Sir?
I just wanted to get back to your comment earlier about the traffic and bringing people in to work in their businesses here. And then while we're all living here, we're kind of going away. I think the original vision was to have some pretty good employers here like Microsoft. And it looks like what we're doing more recently is maybe not having those employers in anymore and instead doing housing, which means we have more of the same situation, people trying to all commute during the day the same direction. So I guess my comment would be, as we're looking at the vision going forward, we try to remember that mix. It seems like the work mix has gotten way out of whack with the living mix. And so bringing those good jobs in like Microsoft, I would think would be a priority. Even Bellevue College, you can call students employees going to work like that. But even the people who would have worked at those places would have been great opportunities going opposite directions so that we could have maximized our community instead of having everybody kind of fight the same direction.
And I just, I do want to just mention, hopefully they don't mind a shout out. We do have some folks from Swedish here, and they are, I think, providing some of those better paying jobs. And they are starting to talk with us about maybe possibilities for working on their vacant land. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that the economy holds tight for us for a while.
Regency Center servers are in
Oh, awesome. I'm not sure we met. We'll meet later. Okay. Any other comments? Brief one?
One thing we also heard in our outreach, it gets to your point about people who are already here. You probably see her blog in the Issaquah Highlands. Carrie, I think it is, O'Neill. She's a resident. She works in the downtown area, Issaquah. She'd love to have an office close to the hospital. And we came across a lot of people like that that would like to be next to Swedish medical office use. And I think it's really good to build upon what is really a beautiful asset at Swedish and augment it with medical office and uses that people in the community could leverage the hospital.
Okay, I'm gonna, unless anybody else has something burning that they want to share, I'm gonna move us on to play. Okay, so here, it looks like we've kind of clustered 3 to 5. I'm gonna read you the notes. So pool, somebody wants a pool. I think we were this close to getting a pool at one point.
Really close. Who was that guy?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Someone thinks we need a cafe for breakfast. Okay. We got another swimming pool. What's the latest about the wave surf business that wants to be here? Okay, we can talk about that. There's plenty of kids' playgrounds, but where can adults play? Okay. Love the trail system. I got another swimming pool, so swimming pool hit the trifecta. And then there needs to be more activities for kids and teens. Okay, awesome. Okay, does anybody want to talk or unpack any of that? Ms. Hoy.
We'll weigh in. Sarah and I will weigh in on this. When we survey the homeowners,
okay,
40% of the people who respond, 50% of the people who respond, guess what they want?
A swimming pool.
Swimming pool. Yeah. So it's not just not here.
It's not 3?
It's
more than 3?
It's more than 3. It's 50% of people who respond.
But Issaquah Highlands does not have the land or the funds to build that type of infrastructure, and it wasn't built by the developer.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that.
Eric. Half of us in this room have history on this.
My name is Eric Zimmerman. We moved in July 2000, so I was the first resident board of directors participant, and a pool was a big issue. Yeah. And we went through multiple iterations. The developer paid for a plan. In fact, I believe another plan was, thank you, honey. Another plan was done, and I actually still have a copy of it. It went from 6 million, I think, in the beginning, up to 16 million. But it was shown that we could do it as a private organization, as a community, but it was kiboshed. So why, I don't remember all the details, but we actually showed that if we built an inside pool with things like deep pool scuba diving and other things that added value, that it penciled out. So, I know that Bohm's pool is not only aging, but it's full to the gills, right?
Yeah, you got a waiting list.
It's tied up by the swimming teams. And,
yep.
And so on. And in fact, I think the city bylaws or something says you have to build one every 15,000. Is that part of the?
I don't know about that bylaw, but
that was the rumor anyway.
We can check into that, Eric. Okay. So everything, they say that everything has a right time and not a right time, right? And maybe the pool push was not the right time, and maybe we're getting to the place where there is more of a right time. Now, obviously, you guys don't have any land really that would fit a pool that I'm aware of, unless you want to convert a neighborhood park. And I think each neighborhood would not want to lose their park for a pool for the community. So that leaves Central Park. I mean, really.
Behind the water.
That's where we were talking at one point in time. So,
Just use the water tank.
Good point. Well,
as long as you take a bath first.
Yeah, as long as you only clean.
but at the same time, it addresses the activities for young people.
So absolutely. So right now, there's a reality that's different today than there was before. You've got 3 high schools using the one pool in the city. You've got a waiting list for kids to take swimming lessons. Sammamish built a pool with the YMCA, which is doing very well. And there's demand. There was a kickoff meeting for Lake Sammamish State Park, and there is a private swim club that has resources that could be maybe partnered with. There was a few other organizations that I think could be brought into maybe figure out how everybody could partner together to do that. Now, at the end of the day, probably the one that's got the land is the city. So, that pathway leads to, it's going to be Parks Department and it's going to be City Council. So, there's a way to...
We know who was.
So there's a new park director. So Phil, so go to a park board, bring this up, see if you guys can get some traction. I mean, I think the more voices, Issaquah is a fairly content community. 20 people come to a meeting and it's a big deal. So you guys make a dinner of it and go to a park board meeting and have a conversation. Jeff.
Let's see, a couple things. On a swimming pool, well, this isn't an answer for everybody's desires because an outdoor pool is great, but there's a new place in Redmond. I haven't been there lately, but they're constructing an indoor swimming facility that seems to be a trend. I've seen it in Houston. I've seen it in a couple other places where they're doing swimming lessons and other things. And by the way, my name's Jeff Walker. I just moved in a couple days ago.
And you're shy.
Yeah. But anyway, that might be a potential solution, a private indoor swimming pool where they're actually digging down and building inside what's more like a retail type location. But there's a new place in Redmond Town Center that that's being built out now. It might be open or soon. So take a look at that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So a couple things for me with respect to play. We're on play, right?
Yeah.
And this really speaks more to getting around, a couple different transportation things. One is I'm not at all fond of the parking lot limits that have been put into like the Starbucks, UPS, Jimmy John's parking lot. I don't know, some of you may not know this, but there's now a 4-hour limit and you can get a $50 ticket if you're there. It was 2 hours and I complained as much as I could. Sorry, TV. But there was no notice. All I know is signs went up and they put people out there and they started taking down license plate numbers. And that flies completely in the face of what we had been planning from the beginning, which was being able to go and have a cup of coffee, go have some food, go watch a movie, and not have to move your car to 15 different lots. So I'm mentally up in arms about this, and I'm told that they're now starting to patrol. I don't know that they're enforcing, but they're starting to count and patrol at the movie theater lot as well. I think that's something that needs to be looked at and addressed. I know that the problem is related to people parking for the park and ride because they can't get spots there. I think the answer is not punishing everybody else in the community. It's figuring out how to deal with those people that are actually going off-site and going to the park and ride. I don't have the answer to that, but I think that's the problem they need to be solving, not creating another problem. The other thing is related to a shuttle. I've had an idea for a shuttle in the community that I've called Gopher, which is get out and patronize entertainment, Highlands entertainment and retail. And fun, right? No, but I think it would be great to have, peak time shuttle service that could serve the entire community down to retail and restaurants. It could also potentially be used during school hours that kids could hop on and go from their neighborhood and get dropped off near Grand Ridge as it's going through the route. I've sort of buried the plan for a little while, but I'd like to resurrect it and see if anybody is interested. It's going to require some funding and some thought. Anyway, if anyone wants to talk about that, I'd be happy to. I have some ideas around it, and I think it'd be fun to revisit that. And then finally, for me right now is I'd really like to see some live music happening around here. A live music venue, not necessarily a concert hall, or it's not necessarily a Crocodile or something like that, but that's one of those adults need to get out and play, and even if it's just going listening to indie artists at a restaurant or a cafe, or just a space where there's maybe some pop-up food or drink or whatever. But I'd like to be thinking about that as well, and who, I don't know who can address that. Shelter is potentially a place for that, but I think existing spaces as well should look into that. So my thoughts currently.
Thank you. Just circling back to the feedback that we received from homeowners on surveys. IHCA is responsible for overseeing the development and approving plans and so forth, and working very closely with the city on architectural control and uses. And so I always take the feedback from the city, including the need for the pools, outdoor spaces, things for adults to do, cool spaces to hang out, and give those to the developers who wish to invest in the community. So I want you to know that the homeowners are being heard, and I am relaying that message to the appropriate parties.
Any other comments on play? All right, I have been one more. Okay. Wait, Mike, sorry.
Hi, I just thought to mention that it was a big loss up here when we lost TCBY. That was a great hangout for families and kids, and a great place to go, and always saw someone we know, and no offense to I think IHCA or whoever went in there, but I was very disappointed that the office for IHCA went there. So we lost a gathering spot and we didn't get a replacement. So just a thought.
Thanks. That's awesome. So overall, most of you thought 4s and 5s. I've got specific comments. Overall, more jobs in Issaquah Highlands, no more housing. That adds to one-way commuting. Thank you. Not quite there without the jobs. And then the last one says, avoid something cost burden.
Structured? Avoid structured cost burden requirement, maintain, defend guidelines, I think.
Okay, I think that's relating to parking structures. Okay, so overall, Issaquah Highlands, live, work, play, place to live, place to work, place to go out and have fun. Anybody want to talk about 4s and 5s? Maybe some high 3s?
I think it looks like a pretty clear average of live, work, play.
I was going to say that, but then somebody was going to make me prove that theory, and I couldn't get there. So, it's actually nice. I'll take the analysis later. Does anybody want to talk about overall? I'm going to also read the other because we've heard traffic. I know there's some other kind of odds and ends, and so I will go ahead and do that. So don't impose Central Issaquah standards on Issaquah Highlands. Work with property owners. The city is not honoring the vision of Issaquah Highlands Development Agreement because it is denying property owners the rights to develop uses envisioned for the Highlands. Large-scale Class A office development is not supported by local economy in the Highlands. Retail area is walkable, but distances between shops is far. Telecommute work center, office space. Last mile transportation from home to the transit center. Speeding, traffic, residential property theft issues. Grand Ridge, need more restaurants and shopping, no more housing. Need another major employer in Issaquah. Status of High Street development, question mark, question mark. Wish residents and guests would drive slowly. You can say that about anywhere. Many homes are not walking distance to services. Wish Central Market was here instead of Safeway, sorry. Patronizing the local businesses can be challenging with the minimal parking. We've heard that. The requirement of structured parking under the regulations adopted in March 2018 prevents economically feasible development on the remaining commercial property in the Highlands. The minimum 1.0 FAR adopted by the City Council in March 2018 prevents all economically feasible development on the remaining commercial property in the Highlands. Okay.
You mentioned FAR there in another post-it. You want to briefly say what FAR is for people who don't know?
Sure.
And repeat my question.
Sure. The gentleman in the second row asked for a brief explanation of what FAR is. So FAR is, it's a planning term, a zoning term. It stands for floor area ratio. And what that means is basically the ratio of the building square footage to the property square footage. And what the city has in Issaquah Highlands today is a minimum floor area ratio of 1.0. Okay, that would be equal to a building that might be 2 stories over half the property. So the square footage would be equal within the building and the property. It's the building height allowed in kind of the remaining area, or the area that's kind of west, including Grand Ridge Plaza, is 85 feet. That's like 7 stories. So you could have a building that's 7 stories tall that's a seventh of the property. That would be a 1 FAR. So did I get there without getting too wonky? Is there other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Were you going to talk about what happens with the wave pool?
I can do that. So, so the property that was being looked at by CitySurf, and CitySurf wanted to do an indoor wave pool, basically, is the property that is south of where the current crane is. It sometimes has Seahawk colored lights on it. The property is actually owned by a hotel developer from Oregon. And what was originally planned for that was a Marriott. And then the recession happened. And the folks who own it also bought it with an understanding that there'd be more employment. So at the time, Microsoft owned kind of the vacant property west of 9th. And so if you have a major employer like a Microsoft and a major employer like Swedish, they can support a hotel. And when Microsoft sold the property, the hotel developer, I think, did some analysis and decided that it no longer was reasonably feasible to build a hotel up here. Now, it went away, and different people have looked at it, Someone looked at it for storage for a while, because apparently we all have too much stuff. And then the gentleman and the family who wanted to build the wave pool had it under contract for a while. They don't any longer. And it has come back. The people who own it have talked about maybe resurrecting the hotel idea. But right now it's just kind of sitting there. But it's got, so the way that it all works is it's got a certain amount of commercial entitlement that's allowed there. So you could build a hotel, you could build restaurants, you could build an office building. So anything that falls within the commercial land use category could be built there at some point. But it's controlled by the property owner at this point. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions or comments? So for those of you, oh, absolutely. Mike still?
Thank you. My name is Jackie Carey. I'm also here with Shelter Holdings. Hopefully I won't cause that to happen again. There's a couple comments up there about the FAR and structured parking, and another one to add to it that I would add is the plaza requirement. So back in March of 2018, the City Council adopted provisional regulations that apply in the Issaquah Highlands. And some of the regulations, including the FAR issue that Keith was explaining what FAR means, but there's a minimum 1.0 FAR in the Highlands right now. And then structured parking, which is a requirement to build parking structures, which is a very expensive endeavor. And then also a requirement to expand plazas, so providing more open space, but that open space doesn't necessarily count towards your minimum FAR, so your building still has to meet that standard. Those regulations, those three in particular, have prevented us from being able to develop our property in the way that we had anticipated developing it. There's more of a backstory to that I will not get into, but going forward in the Highlands, looking at how property owners are being able to develop on these commercial properties, those particular regulations essentially cut off any economical development in the Highlands. It's a major concern for us, and we, again, view the applications that we have in right now as vested to the prior standards, and so these regulations wouldn't apply. But to the extent that property owners on commercial properties are looking at the issues going forward, it is a major, major concern because we won't be able to build out the Highlands in a way that actually serves the community.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Nina? Tim? Nina?
Thank you, Jackie. Plazas is a really interesting topic, and you as developers know it from your side. As a community member and as a longtime member of the Urban Village Development Commission, Keith will remember how the standards for plazas changed over the years. And we had originally envisioned a large plaza that would serve a large community needs. And as working for an organization that puts on large festivals like Highlands Day, we have needs for the community to get together in large places, and we don't have any place to go. And when the regulations changed to allow Granders Plaza to spread out that plaza space, then they're no longer useful for what the intended purpose was. So we're still left with that need, I think, in my opinion, for a large plaza area. And an example of one that really delighted me was in that new development in Kirkland, up on 85th and near the freeway. Thank you, Kirkland Urban. That kind of thing is what I'm saying. And I don't know how to pencil this out. I'm just saying this is what I would like to see.
I think that fits in with what Jeff said earlier. Place to have maybe a pop-up music venue of some kind. If you had a bigger plaza, you could do that. Maybe it's something that might still happen at some point. But I think I agree. I think it was unfortunate that we didn't get something bigger. We ended up getting kind of some smaller spaces.
I just wanted to say on behalf of Shelter and everyone that we really appreciate your input. I've left cards out in the back, a little brochure about our company. If anyone has any questions about what we're proposing or whether we'd be willing to entertain a private swim club or anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're a family business. We've been working in the community for 40 years. We love this community. We've invested significant dollars, and we'd love to pursue some of your ideas and continue to see our investment move forward.
All right, so generally tonight's purpose was to come out and talk to you guys about the vision for Issaquah Highlands, what was sold to the community 23 years ago. Live, work, play, and a more dense type of development than had typically been planned and developed in the suburbs of Seattle up to that point. And, you know I don't live here, but I've spent a lot of my life thinking about Issaquah Highlands and working with you all in different ways, shapes, and forms. I think there's no, as Jeff said, I agree with Jeff, there's no perfect place, but this is pretty nice. For me, I'm trying to summarize what I saw this evening and what I heard. Generally, Live and Play and overall, I think, scored fairly well. These are, I think most neighborhoods would take these scores and say, if we could get those, we'd be great. Work, we're all over the map. And I think this is going to take a little bit more kind of unpacking by staff. We're going to think about this, read through this, the comments that you guys made. I know there's comments in the comment box. If you guys haven't stuffed your little green paper into the comment box, feel free to do so. We've also, besides Eric's cards, there's also small yellow cards that if you guys want to take one, it's got Lucy's email address. Oh, Leeson's got them in her hands. If you think of something later, or if you have a neighbor that you say, you know what, email the city, let them know. In January, we plan to share what we heard tonight with the city council and have a dialogue with them about, what we think we heard. And, we'll tell them how many people were here and how the conversation went. And I talked to Nina, and we've planned that by March, Connections, there will be a follow-up story from Connections talking about this, talking about the conversation with the city council and what the next steps might include. All right? So with that, I'm pretty much done. If you guys have any last-minute questions, comments, feel free. Otherwise, have a cookie and have a nice evening. Yes, sir.
I would just like to say that I feel like what was first promised to the Highlands town where the shops are now, Biggs and Marshalls are, that it was projected to be one thing, and then the economy hit, and then they were like, well, we should build something, and they just did. And I would rather not have any more of, well, let's just build something. I think it needs to be, I'm a landowner in different states and have had regulations put on me where I wasn't able to do things, and that's, all right, that's tough. That's my thing. I could sell the land, or I could hold it, or I could do whatever, but that's what it is. But I don't think we should jump forward to just get something done because whoever owns the property is demanding that they be allowed to do something or whatever. I think it needs to be more thought out and planned based on what is now and what the original view was. So that's what my hope would be, and that's what I was hoping to get more from out of that tonight was what that, if there was a vision, because last year, the year before, there was boards up all over in here of different layouts of that whole area with a pool and everything else subjected in there, and then now it all went away. And so, yeah, my hope is that we don't build something or allow somebody to build something just to build it, but that it's actually something that is more towards the vision of what this was supposed to be. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. All right, everybody. I think it's a wrap.